So when I went to teach, I try as much as I can not to be in the place of dictating or pushing, more in the space of I'm walking on this dark path with the lantern, and you can come with me if you want, and whatever that person is bringing, I let all of that come into the path.
Because there's so much in you, and you're so powerful, and it's because of the gift of karate and yoga, they guide you
Yes.
on the path
Yes.
of becoming a spiritual
Yes.
leader.
Yes. 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 Which is what I've always wanted. If you had asked me as a child, what do you want? I would have been like, I need to be some kind of priest, priestess, some person that people come to for guidance and help them to understand. This is all that was in my head as a child. When I walk into class, whoever is showing up, I'm putting effort into accepting that person. And so when someone walks into class, I'm accepting, even if it's irritating, because I'm used to that. I'm used to being slightly irritated with how I'm feeling because what's going on with me. And since I started to allow myself to just be okay with that, then when someone is quote unquote irritating, it's not distracting me. It's just this vibration that's there, and like I accept it. And if there is something that I have to process after, then after class I process it, because it's not their problem. That's my problem. That thing that's rising up in me has nothing to do with them. It's me. And so in the new, like when I grew up, you just fit in.
Huh.
You just do what everybody else does. Even though my generation is a Gen Xer, we were very individual. I had blonde hair. I walked around the city with my little smiley face leather book bag, In South Carolina, that was very what are you doing?
Wow.
But even though we were very individual, we were still trained to fit in. Where we are in the new is, I'm going to express to you who I really am. We just laid down and gave it all up together, sitting up. I think a powerful point is you are needed. The thing that woke up from that Shavasana is needed. Without you, the world does not run. How many philosophers, inventors, future business people, speakers never got to speak? Never got told that what you're doing is what we needed. How much have we lost? We say that we're advanced, but if people are not being themselves, then we are losing out on the nutrients that they bring to our world.
The class when you shared about your story being discriminated. After that class, I wrote an article about my depression, all of that. And then that article got the most views. To me, the fact that that article got a lot of views is the result of me brave enough, empowered by you to share my story. That was really the starting point of me transforming my life. Is not only recognizing who I am, but actually living it.
Yes.
And that is the hard part.
Yes.
Because there are things that you just know subconsciously all your life, but to even be able to put a word onto it, talk to someone about it, write about it, have so many people feel it, that takes a lot of courage.
Because we are taught that. I would disagree with that. I think that the way that we live our life requires us to have courage to do that. But I feel that if we nurture that from the seed, from the child, then when it comes time to do that, it's not courage that we're showing. It's more presence. We have to be courageous now because at least people my age and a little bit younger. I think I have a younger sister. I have a younger brother and a younger sister. but my youngest sister is 4 years younger than me. So we grew up in the same time, even though when I talk to her, there's a difference from her generation and my generation. But we all grew up under the opposite of that. And so to get to where we need to go, it requires courage. Does it make sense?
So if we do it right, then the younger generation, it will be second nature to them.
They're just going to be.
They're just going to be.
Which is what we're trying to do. What we're saying is, one of the analogies that I love using in class is like when you go and learn a new language, the first thing you learn is to conjugate the word to be. Because that is the root of the language. You learn I am, you are, he, she, it is. That's the first concept that you have to break down. Because from then you build from that. And so I am is the first concept that we have to break down. And so that's the thing that we should be being. I am is a presence. It's a thing. This rock does not take courage for this rock to be.
Right.
When a squirrel is running around being a squirrel, it's just being a squirrel. You know, my friend has a dog, and her dog was barking at something. And she was like, oh, why is my dog doing that? I'm like, because your dog's a dog. The dog is in the act of being. It's us. We're changing that because we don't know how to be. We struggle with being, and because that, it takes courage. When in reality, it's just a state of being.
It's just a state of being.
It's just a state of being. You go into your pose, your thighs start burning. Your foot starts itching. Your head starts doing this. You can't breathe. The music gets too loud. The light is in your eye. The teacher was mumbling. This person next to you fell. This person opened up their water. It's the same thing. Does that make sense? And so when I started taking yoga, it was very hard for me to just do my practice. Because, you know, like for me, if I'm turning my back, I can tell the person behind me is not doing the pose. Like I can feel it. Yeah. And it's like, it's bothering me. You know, this person over here in the left side, why are you on your left leg? Why? The teacher said right. Why are you on your left? And when I did my second teacher training, my teacher, April Martucci, what she tried to teach us was to bring your focus on your mat. She said it for like 3 weeks. You know, the training was maybe 9 months, 8 months. So for 3 weeks, she's saying, put your focus on your mat. And I'm like, okay, yeah, lady, I'll do that. Meanwhile, I'm like, And then the third week when she said, put your focus on the mat, it was like, oh, I get it now. I'm too busy worrying about everybody else. What is my job in this class right now? And my job in the class at the time was like, you're just taking class. So then why are you acting like a teacher? Why are you trying to police all these other people? Just focus on yourself. It took some time. It wasn't like that moment and then I was like, oh, perfect. No. Even still today, I have to bring my focus back. I say that when I say I, that includes the ego that's experiencing the physical realm. That includes the body that's experiencing the physical realm. And that also includes a higher self, an inspired self. And that I has all of those things. And so that's what I seek to develop. So if I bring myself into the present moment and I start to feel a disconnect from my body, that's the I that's happening right now. And so then I question myself, the I, why are you feeling a disconnect? And the I will answer that question. Now, my ego may not understand the answer. And so my work is to get the ego to be okay with not knowing, seeking, questioning, figuring it out. And once the ego understands, then there's a presence that comes through. It's like when I put on the music in yoga, that's like a trigger for me to drop into the I. If I'm teaching a class and I'm not hearing that, then I'm not present.
This is so good to hear because this is how I work on my interviews.
Good.
I always start the same and end the same, but in between, because you have a lot of preparation, but you don't need to write down 1, 2, 3,
Right.
4, 5.
Right.
Right?
Right.
It doesn't mean that you don't prepare. It's because you prepare with your life.
Yes. Yes.
And then you're able to live it and give it
Yes.
and share it
Yes.
with
Yes.
with
And
the
if there's
class.
something that comes up in class that I find that I have difficulty doing, I'll just practice it. And then when I'm teaching, again, people don't think that I go through difficulty. I'm literally teaching from what I was struggling with. And so when I talk about balance, like this thing that's not static, is because I know that feeling of trying to do that tree pose and wanting so much to stay still. It's like you can't do it. It's not that you can't do it. It's just, it's not possible for that to be perfect every time. The trees don't even do that.
Right.
And so when I'm speaking, I'm really pulling from the struggle that I had doing that, because there was a point where my foot couldn't come off the ground. Like standing on one foot was too much. I remember that feeling. I remember that sensation very clearly. So when I look up and see people struggling, I know exactly what to say, because you're going through exactly what I went through. It doesn't have to be that. I thought, I'm not going to leave this realm without making an impact. We sing praises of Martin Luther King because he did that. He left an impact. Malcolm X left an impact. Rosa Parks they weren't trying to do that. They were just in the state of being. And they are remembered. And I'm saying, as a queer person of color, I want to be remembered. I want to be remembered. I don't want half of my story. That's not a remembrance. I want to be remembered for all of me.
You talk about the descendant of slaves, and I feel what you're doing now is to helping more people coming out of slavery.
Yes.
Mentally,
Yes.
spiritually,
Yes.
physically,
Yes.
how to live.
Yes. Yes, all of us. Because the experience that happened to the Africans in what we call America is just one experience, right? I'm going to say most, but the majority of cultures that came here had to go through something similar. And I find that sometimes I'm confused when I'm talking to people when I'm like, it's like someone will say, I'm Irish. And I'm like, yeah, but Irish people went through the same thing we went through. It's like the famine that happened in Ireland was because England took the potatoes. It wasn't a famine because the potatoes weren't growing. It's like y'all didn't have it to eat. And so I see a correlation, I see a connection, but this modern person is not connecting to that. And I feel like we all have this healing that we need to do. Even the English, everybody. It's not, I picked that one situation because it's a clear situation, but everybody, we all came from indigenous culture that got colonized. And I'm not saying to demean this new world we're in. What I'm saying is recognize your indigenous roots. Celebrate that. Bring that to the forefront. Let that lead you forward. Let that be a part of your journey of self-exploration. Because I can't say I am if I don't accept what came forward. It's impossible. They're afraid because something unknown is about to happen, and the parent explained it to the best of their ability, but it did not prepare the child for the unknown, because sometimes you can't prepare for the unknown. And so when that fear shows up, I just let it be fearful. And then I'm going to say to the child all the things that I would have wanted someone to say to me as a child. It's okay. You're going to be fine. I'm not going to leave your side. I'll be with you this whole time. Just stand next to me. Take a breath. If you cry, you cry. It'll be okay. Do you need me to hold you? Why don't you come help me? Like, I do all the things not to get them to stop being fearful, but to help them move through the situation.
So you talk about your 3 jobs, which is helping people find the vocabulary, helping people learn how to carve out space, and helping people figure out they're part of something. If everything goes right in 10 years, what would that look like? What would be the world that you see? What would be Sage will be like?
Wow, I don't
You'll
even
be
know.
55.
Oh my goodness.
I can't believe you're 45, by the way.
Yeah,
I
that's
really
what everyone
can't.
says. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I feel it. I feel 45. Actually, when I
You
was a
do?
child. Yeah. When I was a child, I felt old as a child. It's like, I've been here before. This is not new. What it will look like would be a more diverse human race. Meaning, the words that we have right now are not, I don't think, are able to encapsulate it completely, because I'm using diversity, and the reason why I had that deep breath is I'm like, diversity has been used to separate people, and I'm like, I don't like it. But what I mean by more diverse is that we're going to start to see humans show up as themselves, and that be the norm. And that the norm is that celebration of the wholeness of that beingness. How can we be one if a person who's pregnant has to choose between working and being pregnant? How can we be one if people who have children are required to have other people raise their kids because they got to go to work? How can we be one if we're not understanding the individual experience of the other? It's impossible. But we can't do that if I don't know my experience. We can't integrate if I'm not integrated. And so we're separating so that people can say, this is me. This is who I am. This is what informs this beingness. So that then we can go and say, it's like when I talk to people and they're telling me about their life, I'm like, trans people go through that every day. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you're telling me what you're describing is exactly my issue. You just don't realize that that's a trans person issue. And if you understood that, we would not have to discriminate against a person through ignorance. It's through awareness. So,
how do you measure the success of your life?
To go from not expecting to live to move into surviving, and now the work is transforming that into thriving, that to me is success. Because I feel that, and I say that because Sylvia Rivera, I'm not gonna cry, hold on, give me a moment, was a powerful trans woman. And she died homeless. She changed the world for me, and she died homeless. And knowing that, I had to be like, something has got to change, because my story is not going to be forgotten. My story is not going to be forgotten. I am not going to be forgotten. I am not going to allow this world to wash over me, and all people can remember is a person that I never was.